This is Ancient Indus for Rise of Civilization, Part 2, and this is a picture of the Great Bath that was found in Mohenjo-Daro. So what you're looking at is the floor of the bath with the stairs, and we'll see another picture of it soon. Here are some of the drains that were used. So again, this is very state-of-the-art. So we know that Mohenjo-Daro, as well as Harappa, had populations of thousands. There was trade specialization because we find different types of items. We also find very few cemeteries. Grave goods in the cemeteries were scarce, but we don't understand a lot of what was going on with this civilization. So here is a picture of what's been excavated at Mohenjo-Daro. Here's a street. So very, very narrow, but probably just for donkey carts. Here's a well, a water well. Here's another view, and you're looking at a larger well up there on the top. Now you're looking down into a well. Here's some of the excavations that are going on. Here's what's called the Great Granary. And what do you have to call something a granary? Well, you find a lot of spores, a lot of evidence of grains. This is being contested in the last few years, but for now we're just calling it a granary. Again, a surplus of food goods would indicate some kind of centralized government and more intensive agriculture. There's another large drain. This is kind of a computer-generated picture of how these cities would have looked. Again, more individual apartments. Another computer-generated version. So you had a unified culture over a wide area. Again, no temples or palaces. We don't know anything about the civilization in terms of social stratification, political organization. Obviously, it had some kind of religion, but we have no idea what it was. And this is how some people still get around during this time period. The reason why this picture is in here, because in a few slides you're going to see pictures of toys that look like this. Okay, here's our other picture of the Great Bath, one of the earliest public water tanks in the ancient world. Again, the size of an Olympic swimming pool. You have the staircases. There's actually a ledge that you could stand on if you didn't want to go on the bottom, kind of like modern day pools. And again, it is thought that it was more for ritual bathing. Here is a street. This is kind of interesting. It says private wells were rebuilt over many generations to serve the needs of large households or neighborhoods. Here is one of the wells. Almost every house had a private bathing area with drains. They had tight floors to keep the moisture from seeping into the rooms nearby or below. So again, really state of the art. Now I found this in a book. And is this observation or inference? Obviously, I would say inference because we have no idea what was going on here. Okay, now I'm going to have a separate PowerPoint for you to look at on the Indus seals, but here you have some of the main ones. The one on the left is called the unicorn seal, and you might say to yourself, well, that doesn't really look like a unicorn, but then again, how do you know what a unicorn looks like? So the scholars that have looked at this say it's a unicorn, and it really is different from the bulls that are seen, especially in that part of the world, which you'll see on the left there. But then on top of the unicorn is actually some of the writing that they have not been able to decipher. So these were usually done in terracotta, and a lot of them were small, so it's thought that they could have been to put on some kind of trade goods. In Mesopotamia, there was some writing talking about trading with barbarians. Could these have been the ancient Harappans? Again, we have no idea, but they were getting a lot of stuff from faraway places. Technology. We know that they had roads. We know that they had houses of mud and bricks. They had boats. They had cloth. They had wagons. They had some kind of government, and we have these seals for language. This is very interesting. So here you see these weights. The smallest weight in the series is 0.856 grams. And the most common was 13.7 grams. So we know that there was some kind of decimal system being used. Were they used for taxes? We know they weren't drug dealers. I know what you're thinking. Or perhaps for gemstones. Again, we don't know. Here are the toys that were found. So again, if you saw that other slide with the boats and the wagons, and here are some items that are thought to be toys. We don't have a lot of depictions of what people look like. So here is a head, one of the few we have. It gives us some idea of maybe hairstyles. We think it's a man, shaved, kind of nice thing going on in the back. Here's another individual. Now again, because we don't find any, was it a king? Was it a priest? Was it Joe Blow? We don't know. Here's some other figurines found. Here are the type of bulls that they actually have in that part of the world, so they don't look like our cows. Here's some other animals. So you have a dog, what's thought to be a ram, a leopard, an elephant, and a turtle. Some of the top ones students have a hard time with, but again, the people in the know think that's what they were. And here's some of the more sophisticated pottery that we see later on. We find burials, not a lot. And people were buried with simple grave goods. Everybody was buried with jewelry, including men. So that was kind of interesting. Here's a woman. They know it was disturbed. And most of the women buried had bangles on. So they think these were stolen. There you see an infant under her one leg, and again, pottery. So here is more of the pottery. Now what you see on the bottom right, they're actually bangles. And you see that now in Nepal as well as India, where for people who can't afford gold, and now no one can afford gold, so now they're going to gold-plated, other types of metals, but if you can't afford metal even, they used clay way back in the day. Now they also have them of plastic. Here's some of the jewelry that they found. So they were really, really big into jewelry, and especially bangles. This is, again, one of the few statues that were found. This is called the Bronze Dancing Girl. Pert and provocative. She's naked except for a lot of bangles and jewelry. So again, does this give us some clues as to how people dressed in ancient Indus? So we know that they had really good agricultural, a kind of agricultural thing going on. We know that they had jewelry, but it declined around 1500 BC. The cities were deserted. The seals go, everything goes. And there are a couple of theories as to what happened in ancient Indus, as to why this civilization collapsed. One is environmental degradation, one is barbarian incursions, and the other one is flooding. It is believed that the people from this civilization just kind of migrated and started what became India. So we know there's a real strong connection there. Okay, environmental degradation is pretty self-explanatory. Because of all these bricks, again, not a lot of trees in this area. Everything was made out of bricks, so it is thought that they didn't take care of their resources. Okay, this Aryan invasion. We do find bodies laying in the streets of Mohenjo-Daro. Not a whole lot, but we do find some. Here's another slide. There were a group of people called the Aryans that lived on the outskirts of Indus. They measured their wealth in cattle. One theory is that these people invaded and conquered the people of Indus, and that is how in India we got the sacred cow. Now, the problem with this is that if you're going to say that these people invaded, you should find all these bodies with trauma, but only 2 or 3 had trauma on them. Now, what else could have happened to them? There could have been some kind of disease, which would be harder to find, or maybe everything flooded and they drowned. So we're really not sure. Links to modern day India. So we're going to see this in the PowerPoint on the ancient Indus script. The one on the left is thought to be a yogi type of person in a yoga position, which went on to become prominent in India. You had the cow, the sacred cow, and ritual bathing.